All right, what's going on, everybody? So I just finished reading Roadside Picnic. The reason I wanted to pick up this book, science fiction book, I wanted to pick this book up because I played a game called Darkwood not too long ago, and to this day, like, it's definitely the scariest game I've ever played. When even compared to like the latest Resident Evil and everything, like Darkwood is just a horrifying game. It builds dread and the tension. It's just the audio especially is so good. It's so good. But anyways, I was doing a deep dive into the game developers for that game, seeing what inspired them and stuff. And this book was on their list of inspirations, Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. Strugatsky, I think I got that right. But anyways, so I was like, okay, let me pick up and read this book. And obviously this is the book that inspired the Stalker games as well. I have not played the Stalker games, but after reading this book, I'm definitely going to jump in to the Stalker games here soon. But it's basically broken up into 4 chapters. So chapter 1 introduces Redrick Schuhart, which the book will go on, and we'll just call him Red, right? It'll call him Red throughout the whole story. And he's a stalker who illegally enters the zone. This zone is one of several mysterious areas left behind after an unexplained alien visitation. And chapter 3 dives more into this visitation and kind of where the title Roadside Picnic comes from chapter 3, and I'll kind of read a quote for that when we get there. But the scientists are studying this zone and they understand very little of it. And then Red and his partner, this other scientist, want to go out into the zone to find what's called a full empty. They have empties, which are basically 2 copper discs that can't be pulled away and can't be pushed together, but there's nothing in between them. There's like nothing that separates them. So they don't know why these objects are acting like this is. But Red mentioned he knows of one that is in the zone that has some kind of element within it. If I'm remembering correctly, it has like a blue hue is what he was saying within it. So Kirill, which was his buddy, wants to go into the zone to find this full empty, to do some more research on it. So the chapter 1 ends with a very tense adventure into the zone in search of this full empty, and then the consequences of this adventure follow shortly after, which we will not go into. I don't want to spoil anything here. And then chapter 2 takes place several years later. Red has left official work because of the consequences that came with that adventure with Kirill, and he is now just making a living on the black market as a stalker. So he's sneaking into the zone, finding these alien artifacts, and then selling them on the black market. We're also introduced to a rival stalker by the name of Burbridge, and this guy lost his legs, but he lost his legs in one of the adventures with our protagonist Red. They went out into the zone and then got into some hell slime, I believe is what they call it, and that pretty much just melted, like it turned his bones to rubber essentially. So he has no legs anymore. Red kind of saved his life, even though he's a rival stalker to Red. Red went out of his way to save his life. And while he's saving his life, Burbridge is just, pleading and saying, please, he's wanting him to help him, and promises the location of a golden sphere, which is an alien artifact in the zone, and it's just been rumors. No one's confirmed this, but Burbridge says he knows the location of it, can draw a map for Red, and this golden sphere essentially can grant any wish that man want. It will grant. So Red gets him out of the zone, saves his life. He has no Burbridge has no legs anymore. It also goes into more detail on Red's family. He has a wife, Guda, and a daughter nicknamed Monkey. Now, because Red is a stalker and he's been in these zones, there's been cases where the children of stalkers have abnormalities. They have mutations, and Monkey is one of those. So I believe, one really cool thing that I wrote down on my notes just because I thought the imagery was super cool. But Red said that his daughter, the monkey, had blackened eyes with no whites. So that's just one of the mutations that was just an outcome of Red being a stalker and being in this zone and everything. Nobody knows why these mutations exist, if they're good or if they're bad, but that's what's going on. So the story explores that. It explores how ordinary people adapt to this existence of incomprehensible alien leftovers. And then Red is arrested later in chapter 2 and eventually imprisoned for a few months. So chapter 3 goes through the eyes of Noonan, which is a character in the book, and he has a very interesting conversation with a guy named Valentine. And this is where the title of the book comes into play here. Let me just read a portion of that conversation because it's just a very, very interesting one. But about the visit, what do you think about the visit? Certainly, said Valentine. Imagine a picnic. Noonan jumped. What did you say? A picnic. Imagine a forest, a country road, a meadow. A car pulls off the road into the meadow and unloads young men, bottles, picnic baskets, girls, transistor radios, cameras. A fire is lit, tents are pitched, music is played. And in the morning they leave. The animals, birds, and insects that were watching the whole night in horror crawl out of their shelters. And what do they see? An oil spill, a gasoline puddle, old spark plugs and oil filters strewn about, scattered rags, burnt-out bulbs, someone has dropped a monkey wrench, the wheels have tracked mud from some god-forsaken swamp, and, of course, there are the remains of the campfire, apple cores, candy wrappers, tins, bottles, someone's handkerchief, someone's penknife, old ragged newspapers, coins, wilted flowers from another meadow. I get it, said Noonan. A roadside picnic. So that's obviously where the title of the book comes from. And it's basically saying these aliens who looked like they were going in a straight line and caused these 6, I believe, zones were just stopping for a second, not thinking much and just having, doing whatever the aliens were doing. And what they left behind, their junk that they left behind, is what is in the zone and what the humans are after to not only make money, but also the things there that are killing them as well. So just a very interesting, that whole conversation between Noonan and Valentine was a super interesting one. So after serving time, Red finally returns towards the end of this chapter. It goes into more about his family and the struggles with poverty, and Monkey and her worsening condition. Red is drawn back into stalking despite knowing the risk, giving this theme of the compromises people make when survival and profit are kind of colliding with one another. So this leads us to our final chapter, and the spoiler warning now, because I'm going to talk about everything that happens in this chapter just because I want to give all my thoughts on this story. So Red undertakes one final expedition toward that legendary golden sphere, the one that can, again, it's rumored to grant a person's deepest wish. So at the beginning of the chapter, I'm thinking, okay, what is Red's deepest wish? To me, I'm thinking maybe it's probably to get his daughter back and to fix her condition, this mutation caused by the zone. So that's what I'm thinking going into it. He's not traveling alone. He's traveling with Arthur Burbridge, which is the son of Burbridge from chapter 2 that lost his legs that Red saved. He's the son of that guy. He's a more optimistic character than his dad, and they encounter increasingly deadly anomalies while they are approaching this sphere. And Arthur will die during this journey. He dies towards the end of this journey, forcing Red to confront that brutal cost of reaching his goal. Red knew this was coming, knew that this was the cost of getting to the golden sphere. So when he's standing before that golden sphere, he starts to struggle to understand what he truly wants. And then the book ends. And it leaves us to interpret both Red's final wish and humanity's place in a universe that may not notice us at all. And on top of that, we never learn if the wish that Red wished for was granted, if it's the real wish that he actually wanted. Maybe his deepest desire is to again have his daughter back, but we don't know. And the cost of getting there asks a great question: how far would you go for your family, for your child? I know what I would do in this same exact situation, and I can't say it's much different from what Red did. So the ending just made me feel. It just made me feel sad. Maybe sad's too strong of a word. It just made me feel uncomfortable, I guess. I still don't really know why. I still gotta drill down on that and see why I'm having these feelings. Maybe it's just dread just because of what happens at the end of the book, what's going on with his daughter, the monkey. But I think a book that's able to do that, that's able to pull those kind of feelings out of someone, is just a brilliant one. So if you haven't read this one yet, Roadside Picnic, I strongly encourage you guys to go out and pick up that book, especially if you're a fan of science fiction, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I probably would have never read this book if I didn't play Darkwood and known that this was a big reason why they built that game. Also, if you're into video games and stuff, and horror games specifically, I strongly recommend that game. That game is, again, scariest game that I've ever played. I'm going to get out of here on that note, guys. There's a lot more thoughts I have on this. I'm kind of jumbled up, obviously. I just finished reading it last night, so I just wanted to hit record and get my thoughts out there before they escape me. But yep, there it is. Hope you take excellent care of yourself. Remember to call somebody that you love. And goodbye.